everyone. Basically, the thing is that I was sick for a few days, but then I wanted to talk about indie horror games or something. Now that we are done being spooky, we must unveil the less positive aspects of horror. Honestly, I have a love-hate relationship with modern indie games, but first we gotta talk about the history of horror games. The first real horror game was Alone in the Dark. It was very revolutionary for its time. It just wasn't mainstream on consoles though. The only port that we got on consoles was pretty much on 3DO. There also was Clock Tower on Super Famicom. It is very interesting because we got a female protagonist in a very slasher-like setting. You can't really fight the Scissor Man, so you pretty much have to deal with it in other ways. Ooh, the influence Clock Tower had is very interesting, so put a pin on that. So then later Resident Evil was super inspired by Alone in the Dark and got released. And also Silent Hill was inspired by Resident Evil and got released. There were also some very impressive FMV games such as D, but they're not super important for the points I'm about to make. So, too bad. Then Silent Hill 2 was released and it was bigger, and because of that, most survival horror games became bigger and better-ish. But because Resident Evil 4 had action, they focused more on action. So aside from PT, most companies stopped making survival horror games, and even PT was cancelled, at least until 2017 with Resident Evil 7. Because of that, a lot of indie games which kind of started gaining popularity during the 2000s exploded in the 2010s. We got the RPG Maker games trend. Then we got the Slendy Man 5-8 pages trend, which kind of became SpongeBob. Then we got Five Nights at Freddy's because a YouTuber complained that an indie developer, which has no budget, had terrible graphics, sending the developer into depression. Either way, we got Five Nights at Freddy's and that's it. But the latest evolution is that Doki Doki Literature Club pulled a Madoka or Evangelion and was like, oops, this is an horror game now! There's also a wave of PS1 horror games going on right now, as well as some inspired by analog horror videos. But otherwise, yeah, that's kinda it. So now that you have the context, let's talk about everything I hate about modern indie horror games. I'll have a defenseless female character with a dark past. Original. Who gets tortured violently for shock value. Daring today, aren't we? Once Yume Nikki, inspired by LSD Dream Emulator, hit the road, we got a bunch of sequels as well as some RPG horror games, Witch's House, Mad Father, and Eve kind of all featured defenseless protagonists and would also allow themselves to explore more dark subject matter, or even some spooky deaths. So that allowed people to experiment with these dark subjects for a bit. After a while, these kind of games shared the same tropes, which is why I thought it was tiring after a long while. So because of that, a new idea was introduced, that women are shock value. After Doki Doki Literature Club kind of used that shock value, I was like, yeah, we're kinda done with that. Unless we do anything interesting with that, it's probably going to explode, kind of like when 80 slashers died. But no, there's more, and it kind of has become boring now. At least we got Signalist, which is still scary despite women being able to defend themselves. But aside from that, it feels sometimes like you experience shock value and boom, game's over. The thing that I loved about Silent Hill 3 as well as the Resi games is that they pretty much allowed women to defend themselves, but also had scary stuff. So that's the thing that bores me about women in indie horror horror games. Children in modern indie horror game also have a bit of that, you know, shock value to them. The only games that tackled the death of children is probably Rekinder. Then Five Nights at Freddy's came and boom, the death of children is now shock value. Ooh. At first it was very interesting as a subject, but then it just became overused to shock the player. I get it now, I'm just tired of this subject being brought up all the time.
It almost has been 10 years since FNAF.
Either way, I also have another trope that I'm tired of seeing. Ooh, you see this cute game? Well, actually, it is dark and you did a bad thing. Ooh! One of the first time I've seen this happen is probably in Sonic.exe, but I'm sure there are other games that use this trope first. The first game I've seen like this is probably Wadanohara and the Great Blue Sea, which is a cutesy RPG with a very big horror twist, but the twist isn't the only thing that counted. I think the story itself is really well made, and I kind of love it. It's just that no, it isn't a cute game, and that's kinda it. I wouldn't say the story is flawless neither, but still, there were a lot of other cute horror games, so it kinda got a bit tired after a while. But Doki Doki Literature Club is what revived it. As much as I enjoyed the game's writing and its twist, every single game decided to become cute horror games with twists for a reason, and also some dark lore and blah blah blah. It's very annoying when you see a cute game with some potential, but you know what? No, it's a horror game now. Ooh! Also, the thing is that sometimes these games have some sequel baits where they're like, ooh, there's gonna be a sequel, but in a few years, ooh! At least it's not like Garten of Banban, because that's another can of worms. But here's the thing, you can all ignore that if you want. The thing about indie horror games is that there are so many of them that you can just ignore the ones you don't want to play. I might have some problems with these games, but I know how to deal with these problems. Solution A. If I want some cute games without any sign of horror, well, there's awesome games who cover some very cute software. Cute software without any sign of horror. Woo! Solution B. Go past the popular games and make your own choice. Not every indie horror game will be covered by Markiplier. Woohoo!
And there are games that lie at the bottom of the sea for you to explore, and only you.
The thing is that I have a lot of fun searching for very weird games, so if you're tired of the usual tropes, all you have to do is do some digging. But there is also a third option, which is just make a game yourself. There are apparently a lot of game engine tutorials, so might as well make a game that you want to see. Maybe someday I'd like to do that, but right now, nah. I'll just search for more interesting horror games that I could play. Or just play the ones that I forgot to finish. Someday. As far as I'm concerned, I think my spooky games video did a very good job at, you know, promoting some of these horror games. So now I will end with this statement. No matter how many weird trends happen, there will always be something for me. And that's pretty much the conclusion of the video. If you want even more weird takes as well as some spooky games, click on the video on the right or on the left, I don't know. And also like and subscribe!